Aivalotis.
Thank you, Bobby. All right, so I'm really glad to be here today. And I'm going to ask everyone to put your camera on speaker mode. And in a minute, I'm going to ask to make sure that you're muted until I ask for your input or questions, but not yet, because here is your first question. I like interactive, so if you can answer me, that's really, really helpful. So it'll help if you unmute yourself to do that. So when I say the word image, what comes to mind? This is where you guys join in.
Oh,
Lots of information.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Lots of information.
Lots of information.
Photograph.
Photo.
Photograph.
That's what I think, photo.
my first thought was appearance.
Appearance, okay.
I would say how you present yourself.
Ah, good. All right. So when I say the words personal image, what comes to mind?
How people see you.
Good.
How you project yourself.
Ah, perfect.
How you feel about yourself.
Yeah, how you see yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. All right, you guys are on it. Okay, so when I say the word brand image, what comes to mind?
How people see my company.
Your company, right?
How you're perceived.
Okay.
I say everything we've already talked about.
Okay. Yep. All right. So what would you think if I told you that you are creating all three of these, your image that people will remember, your personal image people will notice or disregard, and a brand image or your prospect's impression of your company every time you get on a Zoom call? Would you agree with that statement?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Bad news.
could be bad news for some of us. That's true. All right. So is the image you're creating via Zoom the image you want to create? Do you think? All right. So we'll let you introspect on that a little while. All right.
On the day.
It depends on the day. So you are and always have been a walking, talking image of your company and their brand. So if you are a solopreneur, it is your company and your brand. You walk and talk it. If you work for a bank, a corporation, you are their image of their brand. So wherever you go, whatever you do, as soon as someone finds out where you work, you become your employer's marketing message. So corporations understand this. Employees and solopreneurs often don't. So case in point, I know of someone, I'll call him Joe, who while wearing a company branded shirt went out after working hours and got completely obliterated. Someone involved in this same activity put up photos of Joe in this obliterated state on their own personal Facebook page. But Facebook being Facebook, these photos were shared and reshared and reshared until they reached a decision maker at Joe's company. And unfortunately for Joe, that company logo was very distinct in the photos, and Joe was fired. So corporations understand image and our personal image. So you also always had a personal image or a personal brand, or it's sometimes even called a personal style. And we tend to style our hair the same for years. So when's the last time anybody has seriously changed their hairstyle? And Jeff, you're off the hook on this. Been years?
For me, it's been years.
Just
Years?
longer to shorter, that's it.
Yeah, but we still end up painting or, you know, parting our hair on the same side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had the same hair since high school.
Exactly, exactly. So we tend to wear clothes in certain colors. We tend to dress in similar ways on a daily basis. So if we're a man and we happen to wear a suit, we may be the guy who wears a suit with a tie. Or we may be that guy who wears a suit with no tie. If we're a woman and we wear a skirt and a blouse, you're probably not going to catch us in a dress very often. Or if we prefer dresses, you're probably not going to catch us in a skirt and a blouse very often. So some of us wear large patterns, some of us wear small patterns, some of us wear no patterns. So over the years, our choices and preferences have created our personal brand, intentionally or not. So I know a woman who is always perfectly dressed. I've known her for years. Her hair is always perfectly styled. She wears large patterns, large jewelry, large hair. I've known her for years and I've never seen her dressed in any other way. In my mind, her clothes fit her personality. She's boisterous and fun, just like her clothes. And she has created her personal brand. Now, I know that she created her personal brand intentionally, but not all of us do that. So finally, we create an image by our very presence and surroundings. So we're tidy or we're messy. We take up a lot of physical space or we stay close to our body. We frown or we smile. We talk loudly or quietly. In essence, we create an expectation of what someone is to expect from us when we walk in a room. So I know somebody who is 6'7". He talks loudly and he always has a great story to tell. He takes up 2 times his body mass in space. He's disorganized and tends to leave messes behind everywhere he goes. This is my expectation of him, and this is his image. So does anyone have any questions related to these 3 types of images? Because this needs to be really clear before I go on.
Well, one thing, Linda, one big takeaway so far is if you're going to go out and get totally obliterated, you need to wear a T-shirt with somebody else's brand on it.
Very good point, especially
I
if the
like
brand
it.
you don't
Strategy.
like. Yeah, pick a company you don't like. You know? So how does all of this relate to Zoom? Well, I think that perhaps some people feel that because they're taking meetings via Zoom from their homes, that these 3 things, the image, the personal image, and the brand image, are somehow suspended. That somehow as an entire society, we're going to take these 3 images and we're going to put them up on a shelf until the world is back to normal. And in the meantime, we don't need to bother getting dressed or comb our hair or put on makeup. We don't have to be attentive. We don't even have to be coherent because after all, it's just a Zoom call. So I'm going to let you know, if you haven't figured this out already, this is so not the case. In fact, it's completely the opposite. We shouldn't be more lax. We need to be much more vigilant. Because now we're holding business meetings in our home. And most of us have never done this before. Business meetings are meant to take place in an office or possibly a coffee shop or even a restaurant, occasionally a golf course, but always out away from where we live. Our home has been our respite, our place where we can let go and let out and not care about any of our images. Well, I think that's over probably forever because I think virtual meetings are here to stay. So here's another set of questions for you. So please unmute yourself. What are some of the issues that we have with holding business meetings in our homes? And this is not virtual, reality. So if we were face-to-face, what would be some issues you would have with holding meetings in your homes?
Children.
Children?
Pets.
Pets?
Currently,
External noise.
the noise in my neighborhood is a jackhammer for someone else's pool.
Yep.
Husbands and wives.
I'm sorry.
Husbands and wives.
Husbands and wives. Yep. How about cleaning and tidying? Before,
Yeah.
what happens when you have friends over? Don't you go around and tidy up? So a business meeting, probably even more so, right? So why haven't we held meetings in our homes in the past?
It's our
Well,
private
it
space.
It limits you to a small geographic area for one thing.
Okay.
And it's your own private space.
Right.
It's not for work.
Yep. Okay. So now, even with all those reasons still intact and part of our daily lives, we now have to host meetings in our home, and we don't have much choice. So even here in Ohio, where we're starting to open up a bit, with the 6 feet apart distance thing, it's really hard to hold a meeting and have any kind of, I don't know, the same cohesion that we used to be able to have in meetings. All right. So maybe the importance of imaging we're creating via Zoom will be more clear if I put it in this perspective for you. So let's say we're going to host a live meeting in your home, and you invite all your work colleagues over. They ring the doorbell, you invite them in, you take them into your living room, they have a seat, and you begin to get down to business. And then your kids run in and sit on your lap and try to get everyone else's attention. They sit on your guest's lap. Eventually, you convince your children that they want to go to their room and play, that that's really their best idea. So off they go. Next up is your teenager. He wants the keys to the car. You don't have the keys to the car. So now you've got to help him hunt for the keys to the car. Eventually, you determine that the living room is not the place to hold your meeting. It's more like Grand Central Station. So you decide you're going to take all of the people that are holding the meeting with you, and you're going to take them into the kitchen, because after all, there's a round table in there. Seems pretty private. It's its own room. You're going to sit down with them. Well, then your spouse comes in and starts to cook dinner. You're like, what's up? She's like, gotta have dinner soon because we got soccer practice. Don't have a choice. I gotta do this. Bang, pans bang, dishes clang. So you notice that all of this activity on your spouse's part is totally distracting your colleagues. So you say, hey, you know what? I know a much more private spot to go. So you take them all into your bedroom. And you climb up on your bed and you rearrange your pillows and you get all comfortable while all your colleagues are standing around your bed. And now you're ready to continue your meeting. Does this sound even a little bit familiar? Even a little bit? You've probably never experienced this in a live meeting, but I personally have experienced this in many, many Zoom meetings. Where you see they're walking around with their laptop, sitting you down in their kitchen, sitting you down in their bedroom. They move you through the house with them, and sometimes on the phone. So how do we fix it? So first, the thing we need to do is take those suspended images down off the shelf and put them back on. The fact of the matter is that for the foreseeable future, Zoom meetings are a fact of life. And I think of a lot of us, we're hoping that they would be an anomaly and would be similar to calling in when we're on vacation. When you remember when you take that meeting and you're sitting on the deck of the condo with the ocean in the background so that all the others can be jealous of you and where you're at. Or you could get accolades for being such a great worker for coming in and calling in on your vacation. Wow. So guess what? Seeing you in your jammies, seeing the beach in the background, seeing the messy hair, all of that doesn't make me jealous. It kind of makes me sad because I think you're kind of missing the whole point of a Zoom meeting. So a fellow business coach that I know used to say this to her clients who were stuck or had a setback. She said, get up, get cute, get out. So until we can actually do face-to-face meetings again, we should use a similar mantra. Get up, get cute, get Zoomed. In other words, get your game face on. The impression you're making on Zoom calls are lasting impressions. So let's talk about another piece of your Zoom image that you need to consider, and that is your surroundings. And a couple of you did touch on this. So what are people seeing behind you? And does it present the image that you want the world to have of you and your home? Because remember, you're inviting people into your home. Now we're lucky that we're only talking about a small space, just like the camera angle. So we don't have to go around and clean the whole, so we don't have to clean our bathroom. We don't have to clean under the couch. We don't have to do any of that. Just this space of where the camera goes. So this is something that I think you should really, really think about. Do you want someone to see another side of your image? Or do you want your image to remain consistent with the one you've created out in the world? So do you want them to see your kids' drawings behind you? Or do you want them to see photos of you and your family on vacation? Or would you prefer to keep your family completely out of your business and have a professional background? So you may be thinking that a virtual background might be the answer, but unless you have a state-of-the-art computer and a green screen, a lot of virtual backgrounds can become distractions as you fade into them and merge out from them. Test them. If you're going to do this, test them with a friend before you use them in an important meeting. So how are we doing? Is this valuable information so far? Yeah? Okay. All right. So let's move on to camera placement. Imagine that little light at the top of your camera is your client's eyes. So everyone look at their eyes. Are they below yours, above yours, or level with yours? So eye level on a virtual platform has the same impact as it does in person. If the camera is below you and you are giving them a great view of the underside of your chin, it has the same impact as that old power trick of raising your chair higher than your client's chair. You are literally looking down at them. And if that's what you want, that's fine. Remember, it's all about the image you want to create. If your eye level is below the camera and you're looking up at the person on the other side of the lens, this puts you in the subordinate position. And just like in face-to-face transactions, this can have a place, but you need to use it intentionally. And finally, if your eye level with your lens is you're dead on your lens, you're going to be seen as looking directly at the other people. So if you have a laptop, I suggest you find a way to raise it so that it appears that you're eye level. And there's equipment you can buy to do that. There are also things called books you could stack. I mean, it's pretty simple to get your camera up so that you're eye level, or put it where you want it to be. Also, when you have the version so it's looking up here, what people see is your ceiling. So if you have a lovely ceiling fan, that might be nice to show people, but really not on a Zoom call. It's probably not the place. Okay, so next, how close should you be to your camera? And I think this is totally a choice. I prefer to be seen something, the waist up. I like a lot of my torso to be showing, but I understand that it's difficult for some cameras to do just because of it's a built-in camera. You don't have a lot of control. And some of them, if you do that, will make you seem really, really far away. But here's a secret. And this works on laptops too, but it especially works on phones. If you are using a phone for your Zoom calls, you can use an old photography trick, and your camera is up here on the top of the phone. If you tilt, see if you can see this. If you tilt it this way so that the camera is actually closer to you than the bottom of the phone, it's gonna bring your face closer to the camera while showing the rest of your torso, which is actually how I have my desktop set up. So also, the closer your head is to the top of the screen, the closer you look to the camera, you're perceived. And I'll show you that. So when you can see more of the background around me, you perceive me as being further away than when you can see less behind me. And I haven't moved, my chair's in the exact same spot. So camera position needs to be played with to create the image you want to create. So here's a secret for you is I try to get on Zoom before a call or early in the call. And if you catch me, you're gonna see me playing with this. to get it just how I want to be seen on that call. So now let's move on to body language. Body language on Zoom is the same as body language in face-to-face interactions with 2 exceptions. In a normal meeting, face-to-face, if there are a number of people at the table, not everyone can see everyone else. So there's a meeting that I go to that Claude and I attend, and usually the tables are the long, skinny tables. So anybody sitting beside me, I can't see. But I can see everybody sitting across from me. Even on a round table, you can kind of see the people that are next to you, kind of, but you can more see the people across from you, but there's no way you can ever see anybody all at the same time. In a Zoom meeting, everyone can see everyone else at all times. And you never know who is focusing on you at any given moment. So make sure you're portraying the image you want people to see, and remember throughout the entire call. Do your best to stay engaged and look engaged. You may be engaged, but if you're swaying from side to side or rocking back and forth, you could be perceived as being bored. If you're leaning on your hand, you're going to be perceived as being beyond bored. If you're looking at your phone or turned away from the camera, you'll be perceived as being completely uninterested in what's happening in the meeting. So be smart and use the second exception. Make sure you're muting yourself and turning off your camera when you cannot be totally engaged in what's happening on the call. You have no way of doing this in a face-to-face meeting. This is it's about as close as you're going to get to Harry Potter's invisibility cloak as anything else ever. So use it when you need to virtually, and the rest of the people on the call will totally appreciate you for it. So a little more about body language. On Zoom, you need to learn to use executive body language. And this is a combination of a modulated voice and low-key body movements that are smooth and low over the table. If you use large arm movements, they'll only be distracting. And if you move too quickly, a lot of times they'll pixelate and they'll lose the impact that large movements normally have. So, and your range and pitch on your voice, if you go too screechy or too high or too loud, you're going to annoy your listeners and they're never going to know where to put the volume. So sit in a relaxed, attentive manner. Put your back onto the back of the chair, but sit up straight and don't slouch. Allow your arms to fall into their natural resting place. So, and I'll show you where that is. If you roll your shoulders around this way or this way, and then just let your shoulders drop, they're gonna find that little spot that was created in your shoulder where that ball joint falls into the cup, and it fits just perfectly. So little note to self, men's, that little ball joint, that called home base, tends to be a little bit further back than it is for women. Women's tend to be a little bit further in because men were designed for lifting and women were designed for carrying. So our arms fit what we're designed for. Face the camera and don't sway or rock your chair. So when speaking, look at the camera. And I know this is going to be so hard because especially when we have this Brady Bunch thing going on, we want to look. I'm looking at Bobby. I'm looking at Claude. I'm looking at Becky. We want to look at the people we're talking to or who are speaking. But especially when you're speaking, if you can look at your client's eyes, which is right on the other side of that camera, that will make you look much more powerful. So make sure you're creating the image that you want to create. That's what this is all about. You have complete and total control of this in a way that you never have at any other time. So make sure that you are only telling the secrets about your home life that you want to be told, because your future might depend on it. All right, so thanks for your attention. You were all very engaged today. All right, so does anyone have any questions?
We have about four minutes for questions, guys.